Ah, yes. Ultimate. You want to make something bigger and better than it already is? Just make it ultimate. Nothing gets the job done quite like Ultimate. And that is why today we are talking about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Yes, that is the only reason. It's definitely not because I already covered the first two shows and it would only make logical sense to do the third one next. And if you want to see those reviews, they're linked in the description. Back when I was a tiny fetus, Ultimate Alien was my favorite Ben 10 show, and that's for a pretty simple reason. It had Ultimate Aliens. Watching it now, I still like Ultimate Alien, just not for the same reason. Now, I've already given my hot takes on the Ultimatrix in the last video, so if you want to know about that, then just go watch it. But in short, the Ultimatrix is seemingly more powerful than the Omnitrix, when in actuality it's a lot more dangerous. And that's something I feel like that would be used by a villain, not a hero. At the end of Alien Force, it said that the Ultimatrix is Azimuth's greatest invention, even though we've never heard of it before. But later on, they say that it's actually inferior to the Omnitrix. So, which is it? But hey, at least the Ultimate Aliens look cool, right? Well, not really. Ultimate Echo Echo and Ultimate Humongosaur look pretty cool. Ultimate Swampfire and Ultimate Spider Monkey look okay, but I mean, they look different. But then Ultimate Big Joe and Ultimate Cannibal look pretty much exactly like their normal selves. There's also an Ultimate Waving and Ultimate Wild Mutt, but they only show up in like one episode, so what's the point? And don't even get me started on the finger guns. That's another one of those things that even as a kid I knew was bullshit. When the walking AirPod got turned into a walking MP3 player, he lost the ability to duplicate himself, which I actually find really weird because I'm pretty sure I remembered Ultimate Echo Echo duplicating himself as well, just not as much. A similar thing happened with Feedback, where I was pretty sure I remembered he could shoot glue out of his fingers, even though he can't. So I don't know where all these false memories keep coming from. It's a shame he can't duplicate anymore. I like the aliens that have multiple powers, but his actually complemented each other. The duplication could amplify his sonic scream, but now that it's gone, it kinda ruins and made him special. There are times when I'd forget the Ultimate Aliens even exist. You might as well call it Alien Force 2. Okay, but what about the non-Ultimate Aliens? Like the new ones that got added in this series? Every one of the Andromeda aliens are given their own alien transformation. I'll explain the lore behind them in a moment, just hold on. We get introduced to Clockwork, who's surprisingly overpowered, and also Chameleon, who's surprisingly underutilized. There's Fast Track, who's basically just a ripoff of Accelerate, and there's also Edel, who's basically just a ripoff of Upchuck. Upchuck is one of the most iconic aliens in the franchise, but I like Edel a lot more. It's because I like his design, and I like how he has metal jaws and he chomps on things. I really like Fast Track's design, but his power is just so unoriginal. I feel like they should have either given him a different power, or just given him like multiple powers, so he wasn't just a copy-paste of Accelerate. Look, they even have the same color scheme. I believe it said that Accelerate is faster, whereas Fast Track is stronger, but that doesn't really matter because I forgot the exact way the formula goes, but I think it said that if something is, the faster something is, the harder it hits. So even though Fast Track is stronger, Accelerate is still more powerful because he's faster. That's enough alien talk for right now. Let's move on. Uh, Move on to the story. No, what's happening to me? It hurts. Make it stop. Make it stop. In the very first episode of Ultimate Alien, Ben's identity is hashtag exposed to the world by this kid named Jimmy Jones. Hey, he sounds kinda familiar. You know, Instagram launched the same year Ben 10 Ultimate Alien premiered, and Snapchat launched a year later, so I like Ben's secret identity getting revealed. Normally when this happens to a superhero, it's either at the end of their career or it just gets undone. The secret identity thing was cool while it lasted, but I like how the status quo is like getting changed in a major way. Ben's personality has improved since season 3 of Alien Force. He's usually not like blatantly a jerk anymore, but there are still times where the fame does kind of get to his head and it makes him a dick again. In the very first episode of Ultimate Alien, we're introduced to a scary new villain called Agrigor. Ah, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Agrigor is an Osmosian like Kevin, which means he can absorb energy. So he kidnaps these 5 aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy so he can absorb their powers. These 5 aliens will become known as the Andromeda 5. There's Bivalvin, as in Bivalvia, Pandor, as in Pandora's Box, Andreas, as in San Andreas Fault, Galapagos, as in Galapagos Tortoise, and Rad, as in, huh. The aliens befriend each other while in captivity, and they're able to escape from Agrigor, but then end up stranded on Earth, and from there they decide to go their separate ways. I always really liked this episode. Stories where the main character isn't involved and instead is just side characters helplessly being terrorized by the villain really do hit different. I really liked Agrigor as a kid. I found it refreshing how he was like a shirtless dude with a spear and not some crazy over-the-top alien monster. And with that being said, he is kind of lame. He reminded me a lot of Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy. What does he want? Power! Why does he want it? Destruction! Why does he want destruction? Um, uh, shut the fuck. But unlike Ronan, Agrigor actually kills people. Did Ronan ever actually kill anyone? I don't know. I haven't seen the movie since it came out, actually. It's a really long time ago. Usually, Ben 10 villains aren't shown, killing people on screen, and he's able to defeat the trio easily over and over again. Every time he's on screen, there's this feeling of tension, of imminent, inescapable danger. That aspect of Agrigor is done really well, but aside from that, there's not really much to him. I mean, sure, he's an Osmosian like Kevin, but that's not really personal enough. It feels like there needs to be something else, something more, but there just isn't. Ben would find each of these Andromeda aliens, rough them up a bit, then hand them over to the plumbers, only for them to get captured by Agrigor again. The aliens aren't really good or bad. Each of them ended up in a different situation, and they usually end up fighting Ben. And Ben would scan each of them and unlock a transformation based off their DNA. My favorite one of these transformations is the Russian radiation tank man. Rad finds out that every time Ben scans one of the aliens, it sends out a signal, and Agrigor is able to track them down and recapture them. So he tries to stop Ben, but ends up failing and getting captured again. After successfully recapturing all the aliens, Agrigor uses Paradox's time machine to assimilate them all into his body, becoming Ultimate Agrigor. I forgot exactly when in Ultimate Alien, but at some point they mention that when an Osmosian absorbs energy, they go crazy. And I think the whole insanity thing is a good way to explain Kevin's craziness in the classic series, but I feel like that shouldn't be the main driving goal for Agrigor. It feels just kinda lazy. Apparently, the reason why Agrigor did this is so he could be powerful enough to travel the universe and collect the 4 pieces of the Map of Infinity. But why did it have to be these 5? Like, seriously. I mean, you needed Bivalvin's hose hands, but you didn't need a Toka Star's giant body or lasers or anything? The only one that kinda made sense is Galapagos, and we'll get to why in a moment. The first piece of the map is on the Big Chill planet, and I'm sure you know, Big Chill is my favorite alien. So they're guarding the piece because they worship it and stuff, and they have all these walls and booby traps everywhere. Not really sure why they'd put out traps, because, like, how often do people go to this planet to steal stuff? But yeah, it doesn't really work because Agrigor just waltzes in and steals it anyway. Something kind of messed up is that even if Ben did get the piece, doesn't matter if Ben got the piece or if Agrigor got the piece, either way, you just destroyed these people's entire religion. The second piece is on Ripjaw's planet. Apparently, Paradox turned it into a magnet, that way it could hold the planet together, which was kind of a bad idea, because once Agrigor stole it, the whole planet fell apart. But of course, Ben not only saved the entire planet, but he also repaired it with the power of goop. The third piece was disguised as this thing called the Alpha Rune, which resides in Ledger Domain. Oh no, it's long exposition time. Ledger Domain is another dimension and also the source of all mana in the universe. And it's ruled over by a tyrant turtle named Adwaita. Remember those stone creatures they'd smash every episode? Well, apparently those things were alive, and sentient, and enslaved. All along, Ben and his team were murdering enslaved, tortured prisoners. So in order for them to get in, the gang has to team up with their archenemy Charmcaster. And in case you were wondering, Ultimate Alien continues the trend of her going after younger men. Jesus Christ, someone call Chris Hansen already. I wasn't sure at first, but it is confirmed that Adwaita is the same species as Galapagus. So it makes sense why Galapagus had to be absorbed in order to get this piece of the map of infinity. And it's confirmed that even though they're meant to be very peaceful and gentle, they actually worship Adwaita, even though he's a raging asshole. That sounds incredibly contradictory and counterproductive. I mean, what type of religion claims to be like the nicest and friendliest people, but then they also go around supporting total jerkwads anyway? Wait a minute. We find out that Charmcaster used to live in Ledger Domain, and her people were enslaved and murdered by Adwaita. Gwen's sympathy for her eventually leads to them forming a bond. Now, I liked watching them work together and all, but I feel like it would have been more tragic if she still had the sympathetic backstory, but was also still evil and insane. But I don't like how they completely just forgot about her redemption. I feel like if they were going to tease it, they should have gone through with it. Either she has a tragic backstory and is insane, or she has a tragic backstory and gets redemption. I like both options. Pick one, just don't try to do both. They beat up Adwaita, then Agrigor steals the Alpha Rune, cause duh. Then Charmcaster dies. So if one of the pieces is in another dimension, then like why aren't they all in different dimensions? Because I'm pretty sure there's only one Forge of Creation in the multiverse, so like why put all the pieces, or most of them, in the same universe? The fourth and final piece is inside this QB death trap called the Perplexahedron, because it's very perplexing. The Perplexahedron is based off this thing from a horror movie called Cube, about a cube with different rooms and traps and stuff, except of course the Ben 10 version is a lot less fatal. The Perplexahedron has all these robots and lasers and stuff, but would it not be more effective to just have, insta-kill death blades like in the original Cube movie? To really make sure the map piece is protected. There's a really great scene where Ben and Kevin reminisce on the past and talk about how they used to kill each other all the time, but now they're best friends. This is meant to reflect the upcoming Kevin turns evil arc. There's a sentinel guarding the final piece, but why though? Aren't like all the traps and stuff meant to guard the piece? And so he's just been like sitting in that white room for thousands of years, doing nothing, guarding the piece. It's also said that Paradox knew Agrigor was going to steal all the pieces anyway, so that means he just had that guy stand there and guard the piece for thousands of years, knowing he would eventually lose it and then die anyway. And it's not even the only time Paradox does this. He's a cruel, cruel man. Agrigor ends up getting the last piece because Ben wanted to rescue the Sentinel, and the Sentinel ends up dying anyway. Damn. Then, to stop Agrigor, Ben turns into Alien X for like 5 seconds, and then turns back. Then Paradox teleports inside Alien X, which is something he can do now. I'm Paradox, I don't gotta explain shit. Paradox is like, okay, clearly you're struggling, so he teleports them into the Forge of Creation, something he can just do without the Map of Infinity. So Ben bumps into this thing called the Chrono Randomization Barrier, and it brings his 10-year-old self to the future. Cue the obligatory hero fights hero scene. The game discovers that the Forge of Creation is actually the home of the Celestial Sapiens, Alien X's species, and they're basically God. We find out that the reason why Kid Ben jokes around all the time is because he's worried that someone might get hurt or die on his watch. Hehe, get it? Watch? Which I think is a really great piece of character development, but I'm disappointed we never actually got to see this in the classic series. So they find a celestial sapien mother who's giving birth with her hands, and Agrigor wants to steal the baby, that way he can absorb it. She has to be the worst mom ever. What mom just sits there and lets someone steal their baby and absorb their baby or whatever? Ben and Ben engage Agrigor in an epic battle, and they both get their alien asses handed to them. Kid Ben ends up suggesting that Kevin should absorb the Omnitrix, that way he'll be strong enough to beat Agrigor. After Kevin absorbs the Ultimatrix, he goes all apeshit and then kills Agrigor. And yeah, that's the end of Agrigor. I guess at the end of the day, his only purpose was just to be a bad guy, bad enough Kevin would want to go ultimate and then beat him. So all along, Agrigor was just nothing but a stepstone, basically. You'd think that in this situation, the logical thing to do is calm Kevin down, keep him from, going too crazy, remind him who his friends are and all that. But then Kid Ben is all like, man, you're a jerk. You were crazy then and you're crazy now, you big jerk. And surprisingly, Kevin doesn't get more angry about this. He actually agrees with Ben and then decides to spare them for now. Agrigor is stopped and the team survives another day, but they are left broken. Why? Why me? Out of everyone, why did it have to be me? I didn't ask to be the worst of the worst. Oh God. Do not be afraid, my friend. Your suffering will not last forever, and you are not the worst version of yourself. But if I'm not, then who is? After Kevin mutates, he goes on a rampage attacking all his old allies and enemies. The Ultimate Kevin arc is without a doubt the darkest storyline in all of Ben 10. It didn't just bring out the worst in Kevin, it brought out the worst in Ben. Ben was convinced that the only way to stop Kevin was by killing him. But Gwen believed that there was a chance they could bring him back. But saving Kevin is a pretty big risk. If it fails or if he refuses, then he could escape and kill more people. The entire arc, Ben is dead set on killing Kevin. He is convinced this is the only way to stop him. It's not until Grandpa Max tells him, sure, it's the sensible thing to do, but it's not the Ben thing to do, that Ben starts to consider maybe killing Kevin isn't the best idea. So they team up with Michael Morningstar and Chris Pratt to turn Kevin back to normal. And it works. I think it would have been better if it, didn't work at first. Like, the machine they were using had a leaky pipe, and, they needed to fix it before Kevin woke up or something. Add a little bit of last-minute tension to the scene before, everything is resolved. Also, this arc explains more about Kevin's backstory and like how he turned off his mutant form from the classic series. I thought that was really cool. I like whenever they address plot holes. But yeah, that was the Andromeda 5 slash Map of Infinity slash Ultimate Kevin arc of Ultimate Alien. I really like the Andromeda 5 and the introduction of their alien forms. I like the episode that was just about them. And I also like how none of them are like strictly good or bad. They're more like in the middle. I like how the Map of Infinity arc finally had us go into space and explore the other aliens, homeworlds, and planets, since that type of thing hasn't really been seen too much in the series. The Ultimate Kevin arc was one of the most disturbing and dramatic things to come out of the Ben 10 franchise, but I feel like that doesn't automatically make it the best storyline, but it is still really good. I think my main criticism lies in Agrigor. I've already talked about Agrigor's lack of personality, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. You see, in the first arc, his goal is to collect a bunch of aliens. And in the second arc, his goal is to collect a bunch of map pieces. I know his name is a pun on the term aggregate, but they're really taking it to the extreme here. Unless you count a flashback, a dream sequence, and a handful of mentions, Agrigor is never seen again after his initial defeat. Something they could have done is had Ben visit Agrigor in prison and ask him for advice on defeating Osmosians. This way he could actually be a part of the Ultimate Kevin arc and not just be a forgotten throwaway bad guy. Something else is how there is a different Ben 10 villain named Ragnarok, who's very similar to Agrigor and has a lot of connections to Kevin. Some fans suggest that they should have actually been the same character, especially since they were both just kind of thrown away after being defeated. And yeah, I agree with them. I think they should have been like the same character. Now that we're done with that whole thing, we're gonna move on to the next arc, which is, I think, not as long, so don't panic. So remember Ben 10,000? Remember how Ben still had the Omnitrix and Kevin was still evil, and all that basically contradicts the series' current continuity now? Aside from future Gwen, its predictions weren't very accurate. Thankfully, the writers noticed, and so they made an episode that addressed this plot hole. Ben 10,000 returns. Way back in the Forge of Creation, they teased the idea of other universes, and in Ben 10,000 Returns, we're introduced to the concept of splitting timelines. Apparently, since Ben gave Grandpa Max a cake for his birthday, the entire Ben 10,000 timeline stopped existing and then got replaced by a new one. So, what is this new timeline future about? Well, um, uh, I don't know actually. You only see it in one scene, and the only character we see come from it is the new Ben 10,000. So, this future got no development. So Ben 10,000 has discovered a new power, and it's dumb as hell. Basically, he realized that, hold on, if the Ultimatrix can evolve things, what if I just used it on myself? So he did, and it basically gave him the ability to use all his other aliens' powers without transforming. Eh, what? He only transforms the minimal amount, so if he turns into Jet Ray, then he'll just start flying. If he turns into Diamond Head, then he'll just start shooting diamonds out of his hands. What would happen if he turned into Goop? I don't see how evolving himself will give him all the aliens' powers. Like, he's supposed to be an evolved human, so like, what would an evolved human look like? I think maybe the reason it gives him all the powers is because it's not really turning him into an evolved human, it's just turning him into an evolved Ben. An evolved Ben wouldn't need to transform because he can just use all the powers at once. This Ben can also manipulate mana, which is probably like the best part about his whole character. One of the best parts about the original Ben 10,000 was how his future felt like its own world, its own thing, and this one just completely gets rid of it. The original Ben 10,000 left an impression, a legacy. The Ultimate Alien one, sure, he has a quote-unquote cooler gimmick, but after this episode, he was completely forgotten about. So anyway, the Ben 10 live-action Race Against Time movie, yes, we're doing this, introduced a bad guy called Eon, who is an alien called a Cronian that had time travel abilities. And in this episode, we get the first official introduction of Eon into the main universe. Pretty exciting, right? Well, wrong! You're wrong, and here's why. Eon is a stupid, dumbass, overrated, overpowered, waste of space piece of shit, sad excuse for a character. As previously stated, Eon is an alien, but an ultimate alien, it's revealed that he's actually an evil version of Ben from an alternate universe, even though he might as well just stay a Cronian. It's said that the two Eons are canonically the same character, even though that doesn't make sense for obvious reasons. Some have theorized that perhaps Eon was always Ben from the future, and he just got trapped as a Cronian, whereas others say that, nah, he was just retconned into being a Ben. He just was Ben. Sure, Eon's an alternate Ben, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't carry any weight. How exactly did Ben go from this to this? What tragic turn of events turned him into such a monster? Well, we'll never know because they never bothered to tell us. If Eon being another Ben isn't gonna mean anything, then why retcon it in the first place? In the reboot, Alien X wasn't evil just to be evil. We actually saw how he got stuck as Alien X, and why he hated all the alternate Bens. I think I prefer the theory that Ben turned into a Cronian and then went insane, then went back in time and fought his past self, then went to the other universe, which was also the main universe. I like this theory because it basically says that it's live-action Ben's destiny to fall from grace and turn evil. Aside from the cool armor, the cool powers, the cool voice, the cool time travel gimmick, and the fact that he's an alternate Ben, he is a bit of a shell in need of some development. At the end of the episode, Paradox tells the gang to beware old George and the creature from beyond. What is the creature from beyond? Who is old George? Well, it all started a few thousand years ago. Remember how Azimuth made the Omnitrix with the intention of ending all the wars and stuff? Well, before that, he made a weapon of war. Ascalon was so technologically advanced it could bend reality itself. Then some dude stole it and accidentally blew up his entire planet. Then Azimuth was like, maybe making a weapon of mass destruction wasn't such a good idea. Azimuth finds a planet called Earth that's being invaded by demons from another dimension. Here in Louisiana, we call that an average Tuesday. Azimuth gives the Sword of Ascalon to an immortal knight named Sir George, who then uses it to cut out the demon's heart. Afterward, George founded the Forever Knights, a group that was meant to protect the Earth from demons and aliens, but over time lost their way and became nothing but petty thieves who only cared about power. I like how this storyline focuses more on the Forever Knights. They always stood out to me, but at the same time they were also kind of always the butt of the jokes, and now they're finally getting some development. In the modern-day era, there is a cult known as the Flamekeeper Circle that worships the Dagon, which is the demon that Sir George killed. They believe that Dagon will return and bring promises of great technology and fortune to humanity. Sir George claims his rightful place as the ruler of the Forever Knights, and they wage war on the Esoterica. So in case you haven't noticed, this whole season is a cross between a Bible story and an H.P. Lovecraft story. I love this show. Much like the Andromeda 5, this isn't a black and white story either. On one hand, the Esoterica want to enslave humanity and mind control everybody and stuff, but on the other hand, the Forever Knights are racist. There's something awfully familiar about this. But wait, there's more! There's more! Vilgax is Vilbax! Apparently, the Flamekeeper Circle found Vilgax and thought he was Dagon, so they took him in and started healing him. Yeah, I see the resemblance. I've already talked about Trueform Vilgax and how it doesn't make any sense and everything, but I do like how they kept it, because even though I don't really understand it, I like how they didn't just try to sweep it under the rug and forget about it. Kind of like how with magic, at first I thought it didn't make any sense, but instead of retconning it, they tried to like better explain it and better weave it into the universe. It's kind of like that. And hey, this is an entire season focusing on magic. We don't get too many of those. Most of the time, it's just aliens. It's revealed that the Ultimatrix is kind of evil and is slowly eating away at Ben's soul. Really? Oh, could have fooled me! Inside the Ultimatrix live a bunch of sentient copies of Ben's ultimate aliens, and they're tired of being bossed around. Well, all of them except for Ultimate Wildmud. The Ultimates believe that the only way they can set themselves free is by killing Ben. Ben decides that being a hero doesn't matter if it means people are going to suffer anyway. So Ben enters the pit and dies. Not really, but it does free the Ultimates. The Ultimates aren't humans. In fact, they're not even aliens. They're clones, simulations. But Ben still sees them as people. Episodes like this show us Ben's humanity and what he's willing to lie down for others. The ending to the episode is a bit confusing, since it doesn't really explain why exactly him sacrificing himself freed them, but still, that's not the point. The point is that he did, and it worked. Although, although Omniverse kinda ruined this entire episode and this entire message. What? No! No! Why? What the frick? Why? Ultimate Alien concludes in a climactic 3-part episode. It's an all-out war between Ben's team, the Forever Knights, the Esoterica, and Vilgax, who is turned into a Lucubra by Dagon. Towards the end of the 3-parter, Dagon's true form is unleashed into this realm, and he almost immediately kills Sir George by striking him with lightning. Oh, that was easy. If I knew it was gonna work so well, I should have done it sooner. Ben fights Dagon by transforming into Ultimate Waybig. In one scene, we see that Ultimate Waybig is a speck in comparison to Dagon, but the next scene, they're the same height. I don't get why they didn't have it where normal Waybig was a speck in comparison, and after he goes Ultimate, they're the same size. Like that would have made a lot more sense. Vilgax uses a big slurpy device to slurp up Dagon and turn him into the ultimate enemy. Just kidding, he turns into this goofy thing. This does not look anywhere near as good as this, but even this, I think, looks kinda nasty, so what I'm trying to say is Trueform Vilgax has the best design. After receiving his glow-up, Vilgax goes ham on everyone for about 5.5 seconds. Then Ben takes Ascalon and straight up kills him. Ben, he beats Vilgax way too quickly in this scene. It's something everyone's picked it apart for, but I don't think that automatically makes it the worst thing ever. I actually kind of like how Ben doesn't use any aliens to beat Vilgax, since it is stated many times throughout the series that he doesn't need the Omnitrix to be a hero, so, I find it subversive how he doesn't use it. After receiving all this power, Ben kinda goes insane and then considers recreating the universe in his own image, but his allies and friends talk him out of it, and I really like this scene. Azimuth even rewards him by giving him the official completed Omnitrix. What I don't get is why Vilgax is the one trying to convince Ben to abuse his powers. Because Vilgax sees Ben as like nothing more than a nuisance. He's not really the type of villain who's like, yes, I've finally done it. I've corrupted the hero. Bro, you do realize that if Ben decides to abuse his powers, he will kill you. Do you not get that? Something else is that Ben goes insane after receiving crazy cosmic power. Who else do we know has crazy cosmic power? Oh, right, Alien X! Or, even better, Ultimate Alien X! If that could even exist, which I'm honestly don't think, I'm not sure. I don't think it can. It would have been so much better if they had gone with Alien X. Think of it like this. If Ben and Vilgax get into a huge fight where they destroy the universe or whatever, and then now Ben has to recreate the universe, that's when they can have him contemplate playing God. And then maybe they could also use that as an explanation for why the art style changes later in Omniverse. And also at the early on in Omniverse, the universe is destroyed and recreated, and I don't really like the way it happens there. A lot of fans criticize the Ultimate Alien, and to an extent, I get it. There is a lot of pointless BS that happens in the finale. There are character deaths left and right, and Dagon didn't really live up to the hype. They should have had part 1 be the Forever War, and then at the end Dagon is released, and then part 2 is them fighting Dagon, and then at the end of that, he's absorbed by Vilgax, and then part 3 is Alien X fighting Vilgax. And I do also really like the idea of Vilgax getting caught between this whole cultist war. And like, because if the whole season builds up this demonic power and everything, and then the finale has that power get infused into Ben's arch nemesis, I feel like not only does that make a good send off for the season and for Ultimate Alien, but just a good send off for UAF as a whole. And I just find it funny how it's like a bunch of humans who find Vilgax and they're like, "Oh, it's our master, our savior, he's returned." And in actuality, he's just like, no, I'm not. Who are you guys?" But I find it dumb how the catalyst for this entire storyline is just the Forever Knights accidentally releasing the Lacubra, coincidentally at the same time the Esoterica find Vilgax. Like, I feel like the Esoterica should have been behind the freeing of the Lacubra. But I'd say overall, Ultimate Alien might be one of the best Ben 10 shows. What I liked the most about Ultimate Alien is how it took the mystery element from the first half of Alien Force and the sci-fi adventure element from the second half of Alien Force and perfectly blended them together. I liked watching the trio piece together this huge conspiracy, and we get more of that here but on a bigger scale. Both storylines begin with a small, seemingly grounded incident and then escalate to this huge cosmic showdown. Ultimate Alien is when the writers got to do what they wanted, and I believe it truly paid off. You know, one of the things Ultimate Alien is known for is being very dark, and I think that sometimes it might be a little too dark. I liked it when Kevin turned evil, but maybe having a suicidal character was crossing the line just a little bit. Omniverse, in response to this, or I think in response to this, it would try to take more of a comedic approach, and would end up going too far the opposite direction. Or did it? This is Bradworst signing off. Tell me, please, please, I have to know who. The worst version of ourselves is the same one who is bringing you all this pain and suffering. He may look like the two of us, but he's not the same on the inside. He's empty, hollow, a shell. How can I make this stop? How do I make the hurt go away? We have to do more than just end your pain. There are others like you who are suffering. They need to be helped too. But most importantly, we need to stop the man who is doing this to our people. We need to do to him what he did to us. Don't you want to save your family? Don't you want to make him pay? Make him feel the way you feel. Who the hell are you?